Chapter 1. The Envelope. Barry Tapia stood in his kitchen, hands covered in flour from the pizza dough he'd been kneading with his daughters. At 42, he'd built a life he was proud of, a thriving architectural firm specializing in luxury homes, a beautiful house in suburban Connecticut he'd designed himself, and a family he'd do anything for. His daughter Sophie, 12 years old with her mother's dark hair and his analytical eyes, had just arrived home from her friend Emma's house down the street. But something was wrong. Sophie's usual animated chatter was absent. She lingered by the doorway, her backpack still on, fingers twisting the straps. "Dad," she said quietly, "can we talk? Alone?" Barry's younger daughter, 9-year-old Maya, was in the living room watching TV. His wife Kelly was at her book club meeting, something she attended every Thursday evening without fail. He wiped his hands on a towel and followed Sophie to his home office. She closed the door behind them, her face pale. "Dad, don't freak out, but Emma's mom is a nurse." She saw Mom's medical file at the hospital. Barry's chest tightened. Anna Lindsay worked at Fairfield Medical Center, the same hospital where Kelly had been going for her routine checkups lately. Sophie reached into her backpack with shaking hands and pulled out a sealed envelope. "Mrs. Lindsay said she could lose her job for this, but she thought you should know. She said she has daughters too, and she'd want someone to tell her husband." Barry took the envelope. His name was written in unfamiliar handwriting across the front. He looked at his daughter, too young to carry secrets this heavy, but old enough to sense catastrophe. "Sophie, honey, go check on your sister. I'll handle this." After she left, Barry sat at his desk and opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a medical lab report attached. The handwritten note was brief. "Mr. Tapia, I'm breaking confidentiality because I believe you deserve to know. Your wife's pregnancy test came back positive 3 weeks ago. She's approximately 8 weeks pregnant. I wouldn't normally do this, but I saw your vasectomy in the hospital system from 3 years ago. The timeline doesn't add up. I have 3 daughters. If this were me, I'd want to know. I'm sorry. A.L." The room spun. Barry read it again. Then again. 3 years ago, after Maya was born, Barry had gotten a vasectomy. He and Kelly had discussed having more children. She wanted a third. He felt 2 was enough given their busy lives and his demanding career. They'd agreed to think about it. But Barry, watching his business partner Hugh Green go through a brutal divorce and custody battle over an unplanned third child, had made the decision unilaterally. He'd scheduled the procedure during a business trip to Boston, recovered at a hotel, and never told Kelly. It was deceptive, he knew, but he'd rationalized it as protecting their family from financial strain. Now that deception had revealed a far worse one. Kelly was pregnant, and it wasn't his child. Barry's mind raced through the possibilities, searching for alternative explanations. Vasectomy failures happened, didn't they? But they were rare, less than 1%. And his follow-up test had confirmed 0 sperm count. This baby had a father, and it wasn't him. He sat in silence for 20 minutes, his architect's mind, trained to solve complex problems, to see structures from every angle, now analyzing his marriage, the late book club meetings, the new attention to her appearance, her phone always face down on the counter, the way she'd been distant lately, distracted. How long had this been going on? Barry heard the garage door open. Kelly was home early. He folded the papers calmly, placed them in his desk drawer, and locked it. Then he walked out to greet his wife with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Kelly Sloan Tapia, at 39, was still striking. Auburn hair, green eyes, and a runner's build. She'd been a paralegal when they met at a fundraiser 15 years ago. After Sophie was born, she'd become a stay-at-home mom, something she'd said she wanted. Barry had supported the decision, proud to provide for his family. "You're home early," Barry said, his voice steady. "Oh, Candace wasn't feeling well, so we cut it short." Kelly set her purse down and kissed his cheek. The casual intimacy of it, knowing what he now knew, made his stomach turn, but he kept his expression neutral. "How are the girls?" "Good. Sophie seemed a little quiet when she got home from Emma's. Probably just tired." Kelly's eyes flickered with something. Concern. Guilt. But it passed quickly. "I'll go check on them." As she walked away, Barry studied her. Pregnant. 8 weeks. He calculated backwards. 2 months ago was September, right when his firm had been consumed with the Blackstone Estate project, a $12 million custom home for a tech entrepreneur. He'd been working 70-hour weeks, plenty of time for an affair. That night, after the girls were asleep, Barry lay in bed beside Kelly, his mind cataloging everything. He needed information. He needed to know who, when, how long. But most importantly, he needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal before he decided how to respond. "Barry?" Kelly's voice in the darkness startled him. "Are you okay? You've been quiet tonight." "Just thinking about the Morrison project. Site inspection tomorrow." "You work too hard," she said, her hand finding his under the covers. The hypocrisy of it nearly made him laugh. Instead, he squeezed her hand gently. "Someone has to keep this family fed." She fell asleep within minutes. Barry didn't sleep at all. Chapter 2. The Investigation. Over the next 5 days, Barry operated on 2 levels. On the surface, he was the same dedicated husband and father, making breakfast, helping with homework, attending Maya's soccer games. Underneath, he was a man possessed. He started with Kelly's phone. She kept it locked, but Barry knew her password. He'd seen her enter it 100 times. While she showered on Friday morning, he cloned her phone using software his tech-savvy business partner Hugh had recommended for a different purpose months ago. Within minutes, he had access to everything: texts, calls, emails, photos. What he found made his blood run cold. The texts went back 6 months. The affair partner's name in her phone was KC, just initials, but the messages were explicit, passionate, and damning. Kelly had been meeting KC at a rental property in Westport, sometimes twice a week. The messages detailed encounters, expressions of love, and discussions about when we can finally be together. But it was one particular exchange from 3 weeks ago that hit hardest. KC: "What did the doctor say?" Kelly: "Positive. I'm scared." KC: "Don't be. This is what we wanted, remember? Our chance." Kelly: "What about Barry?" KC: "You said yourself the marriage has been dead for years. He's married to his work. You deserve more." Kelly: "When should I tell him?" KC: "After the holidays. We'll figure it out together. I love you." Barry's hands shook as he read. They were planning to tell him, planning to blow up his family, planning to take everything he'd built. But the messages didn't reveal KC's identity. Barry scrolled through months of communication, looking for clues. Finally, he found it. A photo Kelly had sent. A selfie from their bed, his bed, with the caption, "Missing you." And in the background, barely visible on the nightstand, was a framed photo. Barry enlarged it. The photo was from last Christmas, but someone had been cropped out. Someone who had been standing next to Barry in the original. His half-brother, Sean Cooley. Barry sat back, his heart pounding. Sean. Of course it was Sean. Sean Cooley was Barry's younger half-brother by 4 years, the product of their father's second marriage after Barry's mother died of cancer when Barry was 8. Growing up, the family dynamic had been complicated. Their father, Robert Tapia, had thrown himself into his new family, and Barry had often felt like an outsider. Sean had been given every advantage: private schools, a car at 16, a college fund. Barry had worked his way through community college and then architecture school on scholarships and part-time jobs. The resentment had always been there, simmering beneath the surface of forced family gatherings. Sean had gone into real estate development, riding on their father's connections, but his projects were often mediocre, cutting corners where Barry never would. 2 years ago, Sean had asked Barry to partner on a development project. Barry had reviewed the plans and declined. The design was subpar, the permits questionable. Sean had taken it as a personal insult. Since then, family dinners had been tense, but Kelly had always gotten along well with Sean. Too well, Barry now realized. She'd been the one pushing for more family time together, suggesting dinners, inviting Sean and his wife Patty over for barbecues. Patty. Barry's mind clicked. Sean's wife, Patty Cooley, didn't know. She was another victim in this. Barry pulled out his phone and called Dominic Branch, a private investigator he'd worked with on due diligence for property acquisitions. Dominic was discreet, thorough, and expensive. "Dom, it's Barry Tapia. I need your help with a personal matter. Complete discretion." "Always. What do you need?" "Surveillance on 2 people. My wife and my half-brother. I need everything. Where they go, when they meet, proof of an affair. Photos, videos, the works." "How long has this been going on?" 6 months at least, maybe longer. Dominic was quiet for a moment. "Jesus, Barry, I'm sorry. I'll start today. You'll have a report by Monday. One more thing. His wife, Patty Cooley. I want a full background on her. Financial situation, anything that might be relevant. You thinking about bringing her in?" "Maybe. I need to know what I'm working with first." That weekend was excruciating. On Saturday, Barry took the girls to the Science Museum while Kelly said she was meeting Candace Lee for lunch. Dominic's first text came at 2:47 p.m. Subject met male matching description at Westport address. Entering property now. Will photograph. Barry kept his phone in his pocket and focused on his daughters, explaining the physics of light refraction to Sophie, while Maya played in the water exhibits. He was good at compartmentalizing. Years of managing complex projects while dealing with difficult clients had taught him that skill. At dinner that night, Kelly was glowing. She talked about her lunch with Candace, describing a restaurant Barry knew Candace hated. Another lie, easily told. "You seem happy," Barry observed. "I am," Kelly said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "I've been thinking we should take a family vacation over Christmas. Maybe somewhere warm? The girls would love it." Barry wondered if she was already planning how to tell him. If the vacation was meant to be a goodbye tour before she destroyed their family. "That sounds nice," he said. "Let's look at options." Sunday morning, Barry's phone buzzed with an email from Dominic. The subject line read, "Full report." Barry waited until Kelly took the girls to the park, then opened it. The report was comprehensive. 47 photographs documenting Kelly and Sean entering and exiting the Westport rental property over the past week alone. Timestamps, locations, everything admissible in a divorce proceeding. But more than that, Dominic had dug deeper. The rental property was owned by an LLC, Coastal Ventures Development. Barry recognized the name. It was one of Sean's shell companies used for his real estate deals. Sean had been using company property to conduct the affair. That meant financial records, paper trails. Dominic had also included background on Patty Cooley. She'd been Sean's college girlfriend, married for 14 years, no children. She worked as an accountant for Sean's business, handling the books for all his LLCs. More importantly, she'd recently been asking questions about discrepancies in the Coastal Ventures accounts. A plan began to form in Barry's mind. It was complex, multi-layered, and would require perfect timing. But Barry specialized in complex structures. He knew how to build something that looked solid, but had critical points of failure built in, where one pull of the right element would bring the whole thing crashing down. He called Dominic back. "Dom, I need you to do something else. I want you to compile everything you can on Sean Cooley's business operations. Every LLC, every property, every permit, every contract. I want to know where the money comes from and where it goes. You thinking what I think you're thinking? I'm thinking I'm going to architect my brother's destruction. And he's going to help me do it." Chapter 3. The Foundation. Monday morning, Barry sat in his office at Tapia Design Studio, the architecture firm he'd built from nothing over the past 15 years. His partner, Hugh Green, knocked on his open door. "You look like hell," Hugh said, stepping inside and closing the door. "What's going on?" Barry and Hugh had been friends since architecture school. Hugh was blunt, loyal, and one of the few people Barry trusted completely. Barry handed him the envelope from Anna Lindsay and Dominic's report. Hugh read in silence, his expression darkening. When he finished, he looked up at Barry with a mixture of anger and sympathy. "I'll kill him," Hugh said simply. "No, I have something better planned." "Talk to me." Barry stood and walked to the window overlooking downtown Stamford. "Sean has always been jealous of what I built. He wanted to be me, successful, respected, secure. But he took shortcuts, cut corners, compromised. Now he's going to pay for that. What's the plan? I'm going to offer him exactly what he wants. A partnership, a major development project, something prestigious enough to legitimize his mediocre reputation. He won't be able to resist." Hugh leaned back. "And then?" "Then I'm going to make sure he destroys himself. But first, I need to know everything about his business. Dominic's digging. But I need you to help me understand the financial angle." "What are you thinking?" "Sean's LLCs are a mess. I've seen his filings before. Sloppy work, questionable practices. If I can get access to his books, I guarantee I'll find something illegal. Tax fraud, permit violations, maybe worse." Hugh nodded slowly. "And you use that as leverage." "Better than leverage. I'm going to hand it to the authorities on a silver platter. But only after I've positioned everything so when he falls, he takes Kelly down with him." "She's complicit?" "She's been meeting him at properties owned by his company. If there's financial fraud involving those properties, she's potentially an accessory. And even if the legal angle doesn't stick, the social and financial damage will be catastrophic." Hugh was quiet for a moment. "This is scorched earth, Barry. She's pregnant with my brother's child. She was planning to destroy our family. Scorched earth doesn't begin to cover what they deserve. What about your girls?" That was the question that kept Barry up at night. Sophie and Maya were innocent in all this. But Barry had thought it through from every angle. "They deserve better than a mother who's a liar and a father who's a narcissist. I'm going to make sure I get full custody, and I'm going to make sure they understand when they're old enough that I fought for them." Hugh stood. "Okay, what do you need from me?" "Help me build a project so attractive that Sean can't refuse it. Something that will require him to invest significantly, to stretch himself thin financially. And make sure it's structured so that when it collapses, I'm protected and he's exposed." Over the next week, Barry executed his plan with surgical precision. He reached out to Sean through a carefully worded email. "Sean, I've been thinking about our last conversation regarding partnerships. I may have been too quick to dismiss your ideas. I have a project coming up that could benefit from your development expertise, a mixed-use complex in Norwalk, potential value north of 30 Mallers. Interested in discussing? Let's grab dinner this week." Barry Sean's response came within an hour. "Hell yes. Thursday work? My treat." Thursday night, Barry met Sean at an upscale steakhouse in Westport, ironically only 2 miles from the rental property where Sean had been sleeping with Barry's wife. Barry studied his half-brother across the table. Sean was handsome in a polished way, slicked back hair, expensive watch, custom suit. Everything about him screamed trying too hard. "I have to admit, I'm surprised by this," Sean said after they ordered. "Last time we talked about working together, you shut me down pretty hard." Barry sipped his whiskey, maintaining eye contact. "I've been reflecting on that. We're family. We should be supporting each other, not competing." "I agree completely," Sean said, and Barry could see the satisfaction in his eyes. Sean thought he'd won something. "Tell me about your current projects," Barry said. "I want to understand your portfolio better." Sean launched into a detailed description of his developments: 3 residential complexes, a strip mall, and several rental properties. As he talked, Barry listened for the details, the vulnerabilities. "The rental properties," Barry said casually. "Those performing well?" "Solid income stream, mostly corporate rentals, short-term leases. Low maintenance, high return. Any issues with permits or zoning?" Sean hesitated just for a second. "Nothing major. You know how it is. Sometimes you have to be creative with the paperwork." There it was. Barry filed it away. They discussed the Norwalk project for another hour. Barry had designed a proposal that was perfect bait. A luxury residential complex with commercial ground floor in a redeveloping area with high potential. Barry would handle design and permitting. Sean would manage development and financing. Initial investment required $2 million from each partner. "This is exactly what I've been looking for," Sean said. "A chance to work on something prestigious with a real architect. No offense, but most of my projects have been functional." "None taken. That's why this partnership could work. Your development expertise, my design reputation." They shook hands. Barry felt nothing but cold satisfaction. That night, Barry came home to find Kelly in bed reading. She looked up as he entered. "How was dinner with Sean?" "Good. We're going to work together on a project." Kelly's expression flickered. Surprise, worry, something else. "Really? That's unexpected." "Why? He's family. We should support each other." "Of course. I just thought you two didn't really get along. We're adults. Time to move past old grudges." Kelly was quiet for a moment. "That's very mature of you." Barry undressed and got into bed, his back to her. He wondered if she'd already told Sean about the pregnancy. He wondered if they were panicking, trying to figure out how to navigate this new complication. Good. Let them panic. His phone buzzed with a text from Dominic. "Package delivered. Review when you're alone." Barry waited until Kelly was asleep, then quietly moved to his office. Dominic had sent an encrypted file. Inside was everything Barry needed. Detailed financial records of Sean's LLCs, evidence of permit violations, tax discrepancies, and, the crown jewel, proof that Sean had been using company funds for personal expenses, including paying for the Westport rental property. It was embezzlement. Small scale, but indisputable. Barry also found something else. Emails between Sean and a city inspector discussing expedited permits in exchange for cash payments. Bribery, corruption. Sean wasn't just a cheater and a narcissist. He was a criminal. Barry began drafting a document. It was meticulous, cross-referenced, with every piece of evidence documented and sourced. When he was done, he had a 47-page report that would destroy Sean's business and potentially send him to prison. But he wasn't ready to use it yet. First, he had one more person to bring into the fold. On Saturday morning, Barry drove to Manchester, where Patty Cooley worked from a small office managing Sean's business accounts. He'd called ahead, requesting a meeting about potential partnership accounting. Patty Cooley was a small, precise woman in her early 40s, with short blonde hair and intelligent eyes. She invited Barry into her office and offered coffee. "I appreciate you meeting me on a weekend," Barry said. "Sean mentioned you two were working together. I'm glad to see it. I know family dynamics have been complicated." Barry studied her. Did she know about the affair? Was she complicit or another victim? "Patty, I'm going to be direct with you because I think you deserve the truth. I'm not here about business accounting." Her expression shifted, guarded. "What are you here about?" "I'm here because Sean is having an affair with my wife. They've been involved for at least 6 months. She's pregnant with his child." The color drained from Patty's face. "What?" Barry pulled out his phone and showed her the photographs from Dominic's report. Patty looked at each one, her hand shaking. When she finished, she set the phone down carefully. "I suspected," she said quietly. "The late nights, the distance. But I told myself I was paranoid." She looked up at Barry, her eyes filling with tears. "I'm sorry. For you. For your daughters. I'm sorry for you too, but, Patty, this isn't just about the affair." He showed her the financial documents, the evidence of embezzlement and bribery. He's been using company money to pay for their rental property. He's been bribing city officials for permits. And if I'm reading these accounts correctly, he's been skimming from your joint accounts for months. Patty read through the documents, her professional training taking over. After 20 minutes, she looked up. "This is fraud. Multiple counts. He could go to prison." "Yes. But here's what I'm proposing. I'm going to offer Sean a business partnership that will require him to invest heavily. Money he doesn't have. He'll have to liquidate assets, take on debt, And when the project collapses, and it will, he'll be financially ruined. At that point, we report the fraud to the authorities. He loses everything, his business, his freedom, and Kelly. Patty was quiet for a long time. What do you need from me? Access to his accounts, documentation of everything, and when the time comes, testimony. What's in it for me? Full immunity from prosecution, documented evidence that you were unaware of his illegal activities, and in the divorce, everything. I have lawyers who can make sure you're protected and compensated. Patty looked at the photographs of Sean and Kelly again. Her expression hardened. I'm in. Chapter 4. The Blueprint. December arrived with unusual cold. Barry watched as pieces of his plan moved into position like a carefully designed structure, each element supporting the next. The Norwalk project was approved for development. Barry's architectural designs were praised by the city planning board. Innovative, environmentally conscious, exactly the kind of prestigious development that would attract wealthy buyers. Sean was ecstatic, already imagining the profits and the professional legitimacy. What Sean didn't know was that Barry had deliberately designed structural elements that wouldn't pass final inspection. Hidden in the technical specifications were code violations so subtle that only an expert reviewer would catch them, and only after construction had begun. By then, Sean would be millions in debt with no way to recover. Hugh had helped structure the partnership agreement with poisonous clauses disguised as standard terms. Sean, eager and trusting, had signed without thorough legal review. The agreement made Sean responsible for all debt obligations if the project failed, while protecting Barry's assets. He didn't even read the full contract, Hugh reported back after the signing. Just skimmed and signed. Arrogance, Barry said. He thinks because we're family, I won't screw him. At home, the charade continued. Kelly was beginning to show, just slightly. She'd started wearing looser clothes. Barry knew she was trying to figure out when to tell him. Her phone conversations were hushed, anxious. Once, he heard her in the bathroom crying. Good. Sophie, perceptive as ever, had noticed the tension. One evening, while helping Barry make dinner, she spoke quietly. Dad, are you and Mom okay? Barry looked at his daughter. 12 years old, smart, worried. She deserved honesty, but not yet. Not until he had everything in place to protect her. We're working through some things, honey, but I want you to know that no matter what happens, I love you and your sister more than anything in this world. Is it because of the baby? Barry's knife stopped mid-chop. What baby? I heard Mom on the phone. She said something about telling you about the baby after Christmas. So Kelly was still planning the timeline, still thinking she controlled the narrative. Sophie, Barry said carefully, whatever happens, I need you to trust me. Can you do that? She nodded, her eyes serious. The next phase of Barry's plan involved Candace Le, Kelly's best friend. Barry had always found Candace grating, loud, dramatic, constantly involved in other people's business. But Dominic's investigation revealed something interesting. Candace had been covering for Kelly's affair, providing alibis, encouraging the relationship. Barry invited Candace and her husband Tyler to dinner on a Friday night. Throughout the evening, he observed Candace's interactions with Kelly, the knowing glances, the coded language. After dinner, while Tyler and Kelly were in the other room, Barry cornered Candace in the kitchen. I know about the affair, he said quietly. Candace's eyes widened. Barry, Save it. You've been helping her lie to me for months. You've been in my home, eating my food, pretending to be my friend while helping destroy my marriage. It's not like that. What's it like then? Explain to me how helping my wife cheat with my brother is anything other than betrayal. Candace's face flushed. Kelly was unhappy. You were never home, always working. So that makes it okay? That justifies what she's done. Candace looked away. What are you going to do? That depends on you. You're going to continue being Kelly's confidant. You're going to encourage her to tell me about the pregnancy. And you're going to report back to me everything she says. You want me to spy on my best friend? I want you to choose. Either you help me, or I make sure everyone in your social circle knows you facilitated an affair and helped break up a family. Your reputation, your friendships, your standing in this community, all gone." Candace's hands shook. "You're being cruel." "I'm being practical. Make your choice." She chose cooperation. Through Candace, Barry learned that Kelly was planning to tell him about the pregnancy on New Year's Eve. She and Sean had scripted the conversation. She'd claimed the baby was from a one-night stand. Someone she'd never see again. She was sorry. Could they work through this together? Sean would support from afar, waiting until after the divorce to publicly be with Kelly. It was a coward's plan, designed to minimize their guilt and maximize Barry's confusion. Barry had a different scenario in mind. Chapter 5. Breaking ground construction on the Norwalk project began in mid-December. Sean had liquidated significant assets to fund his $2 million investment, selling off 2 rental properties, taking a second mortgage on his home, even borrowing from his father, Robert. Patty, playing her role perfectly, had expressed concern about the financial risk. Sean had dismissed her, calling her risk-averse and not understanding development. Their marriage, already strained by the affair she wasn't supposed to know about, deteriorated further. Perfect. Meanwhile, Dominic continued surveillance. The photographs and videos multiplied. Sean and Kelly meeting at the Westport property, romantic dinners in out-of-the-way restaurants, a weekend trip to a bed and breakfast in the Berkshires they'd claimed were separate business trips. Barry filed everything meticulously. He was building a case that would destroy them in both divorce court and the court of public opinion. His relationship with his daughters deepened. He started taking Sophie and Maya to his construction sites, teaching them about architecture and design. Sophie, in particular, showed real interest. "Why did you become an architect, Dad?" she asked one Saturday while they toured a nearly completed home. "Because I wanted to build things that lasted," Barry said. "Things that were solid and true, things people could trust." She looked at him with those serious eyes. "Mom's baby isn't yours, is it?" Barry's breath caught. "Sophie, I did the math. I know you had that surgery. I saw the medical bill once when I was looking for something in your office. I'm not stupid, Dad." Barry knelt down to her level. "No, honey, you're not stupid. You're brilliant and brave, and you deserve better than lies. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to make sure we're okay. You, me, and Maya. That's all that matters." She hugged him tightly. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart." On Christmas Eve, the extended Tapia family gathered at Robert's house, a tradition dating back 30 years. Barry, Kelly, and the girls arrived to find Sean and Patty already there. The irony of sitting around a Christmas tree with his wife and her lover, exchanging gifts and fake smiles, would have been comedic if it weren't so enraging. Robert Tapia, at 72, was diminished by age but still commanded attention. He'd always favored Sean, but lately he'd been praising Barry's success. The Norwalk project had impressed him. "Barry, Sean tells me this development is going to be spectacular," Robert said over dinner. "Finally, my boys working together." "It's going to be transformative," Barry agreed, meeting Sean's eyes across the table. "Life-changing." Kelly, seated beside him, reached for his hand under the table. The gesture made his skin crawl, but he squeezed back, maintaining the facade. Later, while the women cleaned up and Robert dozed in his recliner, Barry and Sean stepped outside onto the deck. It was snowing lightly. "This is nice," Sean said, "being here together, like a real family." "We've never been a real family, Sean. You know that." Sean's smile faded. "Dad tried his best after your mom died." "He tried to replace her. There's a difference." "That's your bitterness talking. You've always held that against us." Barry looked at his half-brother. The man sleeping with his wife, carrying on behind his back, smiling to his face. The urge to throw Sean over the deck railing was overwhelming. "Maybe," Barry said instead. "But we're adults now. Time to move forward." "Exactly what I've been saying." Sean clapped him on the shoulder. "This project is going to be huge for both of us. Thank you for the opportunity." "You'll get everything you deserve," Barry said. "I promise you that." Back inside, Kelly was talking with Patty in the kitchen. Barry watched them through the window. Two women who had no idea their worlds were about to explode. Patty met his eyes briefly, a flicker of understanding passing between them. Everything was in place. Chapter 6. The Pressure Test. The week between Christmas and New Year's was when things began to accelerate. Hugh discovered significant problems during the Norwalk site preparation. The soil composition wasn't suitable for the foundation as designed. It would require extensive remediation, adding $800,000 to the budget. Sean was panicked. "We can't absorb that cost. It'll wipe out our contingency." "We don't have a choice," Barry said calmly, "unless you want to abandon the project and lose everything you've already invested." Sean had no choice. He borrowed more money, this time from a private lender at extortionate rates. Patty, with Barry's coaching, expressed increasing concern. Their arguments were loud enough for neighbors to hear. On December 30th, Candace reported that Kelly was finalizing her confession plan. Tomorrow night, New Year's Eve, at their annual party, she'd pull Barry aside and tell him everything. Or rather, her version of everything. Barry had different plans. He spent December 30th making final preparations. He met with his divorce attorney, Patricia Henson, a shark in a designer suit who'd handled some of the messiest divorces in Connecticut. "This evidence is ironclad," Patricia said, reviewing Barry's files. "Adultery, deception, the child's paternity. You'll get full custody, no question. And given the affair partner is your brother and the circumstances, we can argue for maximum spousal support from her. Essentially nothing, and you keep all marital assets." "What about criminal charges against Sean?" "The fraud and bribery evidence should go to the DA, but I'd wait until after your divorce is filed. You want separation from his legal troubles." "Understood." That evening, Barry received the final piece he needed. A detailed report from a forensic accountant Hugh had hired. Sean's financial empire was a house of cards. The Norwalk project debt had pushed him to the brink. One more financial shock would topple everything. Barry arranged that shock. He contacted the private lender Sean had borrowed from, a man named Hank Dean, who Barry knew from business circles. After explaining the situation and offering to make Hank whole if he called Sean's loan immediately, Hank agreed. "Normally I don't do this," Hank said, "but what he did to you and his wife, that's cold. Yeah, I'll call the loan. Give me 24 hours. December 31st arrived. Kelly was nervous all day, checking her phone constantly. Barry knew she and Sean were coordinating, preparing for the evening's confrontation. The party started at 7. Friends, neighbors, business associates, 60 people packed into the Tapia home. Music played, champagne flowed, everyone counting down to the new year. At 8:30, Sean and Patty arrived. Sean looked stressed, constantly checking his phone. At 8:47, Barry watched Sean's face go white as he read a message. The loan had been called. Sean had 72 hours to repay $1.2 million or face legal action. Sean immediately pulled Kelly aside into Barry's office. Barry, having installed a hidden camera days before, watched on his phone as they panicked. "I'm ruined," Sean said. "I can't pay this. I'll lose everything." "What about the project?" "I'll have to pull out, forfeit my investment." "No, we need that money, Sean. For us, for the baby." "There is no us if I'm bankrupt and facing foreclosure." Kelly started crying. Sean paced. They were falling apart. At 10 p.m., before Kelly could pull Barry aside for her planned confession, Barry gathered everyone in the living room. He stood beside the fireplace, holding a champagne glass. "Everyone, thank you for coming tonight. Before we ring in the new year, I have some announcements to make." Kelly looked at him in panic. Sean had gone pale. "First, I want to announce that Kelly and I will be welcoming a new baby this summer." There were gasps, cheers, congratulations. Kelly's face was frozen in shock. "However," Barry continued, his voice cutting through the celebration, "I should clarify, the baby isn't mine." The room went silent. "You see, I had a vasectomy 3 years ago, which means my wife has been having an affair." He looked directly at Kelly. "Care to tell everyone who the father is?" "Barry, please," Kelly started. No, I'll tell them. It's my half-brother, Sean Cooley. The room erupted. People turned to Sean, whose face had gone from white to red. Patty, playing her role perfectly, gasped in shock. That's not true, Sean shouted. Barry pulled out his phone and displayed photos on the large TV screen. Sean and Kelly at the Westport property, at restaurants, messages between them. 6 months, Barry said. They've been carrying on for 6 months, in rental property owned by Sean's company. Speaking of which, he switched to different documents on the screen. I've also discovered that Sean has been embezzling company funds, bribing city officials, and committing tax fraud. Evidence of all of this has been turned over to the Connecticut State's Attorney's Office and the IRS. Sean, you should expect arrest warrants within the week. Sean lunged at Barry. Hugh and 2 other men stepped in, restraining him. You set me up, Sean screamed. The project, the loan, all of it. I gave you exactly what you wanted, Barry said calmly. The chance to be a big-shot developer. You destroyed yourself. I just documented it. Patty stood up. Sean, we're done. My lawyer will contact you tomorrow. She walked out, and the room descended into chaos. People were shouting. Phones were out recording. Kelly was sobbing. Barry looked at his daughters standing in the doorway of the kitchen where he'd asked them to wait. Sophie met his eyes and nodded. Barry addressed the room one final time. Everyone, please leave. The party's over. As people filed out, whispering and staring, Barry approached Kelly. You have until tomorrow to move out. Sophie and Maya will stay with me. My lawyer will be in touch. Barry, please, we can talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now live with it. He walked away, gathering his daughters, and left Kelly alone in the wreckage of her lies. Chapter 7. Demolition. The first week of January was a masterclass in controlled destruction. Sean's arrest made headlines. Local developer charged with fraud, bribery. The story detailed years of corruption, with the affair mentioned as a salacious subplot. His business partners abandoned him. His father, Robert, publicly disowned him in a statement that praised Barry's integrity and strength. The Norwalk project was dissolved. Sean's $2 million investment was forfeit, and he faced additional liability for breach of contract. His properties were seized, his accounts frozen. Within days, Sean Cooley went from successful developer to facing a decade in federal prison and complete financial ruin. Patty filed for divorce with ruthless efficiency. With Barry's evidence and her own documentation, she positioned herself as an unknowing victim of Sean's schemes. She'd walk away with their home, savings, and a settlement that would ensure her comfort for years. Kelly, meanwhile, was spiraling. She'd moved into a cheap apartment in Bridgeport, unable to afford anything better. Her family had cut her off, ashamed of the scandal. Candace and her other friends distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with the controversy. She tried to reach out to Barry repeatedly. He blocked her calls. His lawyer, Patricia, handled all communication. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Patricia presented evidence of the affair, the pregnancy, the deception. Kelly's attorney tried to argue for spousal support, but the prenup Barry had insisted on years ago, which Kelly had signed without much thought, was ironclad. Adultery nullified most of her claims. Custody was the real battlefield. Kelly argued she was the primary caregiver. Patricia countered with testimony from Sophie and Maya's teachers, their pediatrician, their friends' parents, all painting a picture of Barry as the involved, present parent, while Kelly had been increasingly absent over the past year. The most damning moment came when Sophie, in a closed session with a child psychologist appointed by the court, said she wanted to live with her father. Maya, influenced by her older sister, agreed. My dad takes care of us, Sophie had told the psychologist, according to the transcript Patricia shared. My mom has been lying to everyone. I don't trust her anymore. Judge Martha Crawford, a 60-year-old woman known for favoring mothers, nevertheless awarded Barry full primary custody, with Kelly receiving supervised visitation every other weekend. The evidence presented shows a pattern of deception and prioritization of personal desires over family welfare, Judge Crawford stated. While Mrs. Tapia's biological relationship with the children is not in question, her judgment and fitness as a primary custodial parent is. Kelly's face crumbled as the decision was read. Barry felt nothing but cold satisfaction. Chapter 8. Aftershocks. By mid-January, the social destruction was complete. Barry and his daughters were embraced by the community as victims. He received offers of support, invitations to dinner, and professional sympathy. His business thrived. The scandal actually enhanced his reputation as a man of integrity who'd been wronged. Sean's trial was set for April. His lawyer was trying to negotiate a plea deal, but the evidence was overwhelming. He was looking at minimum 5 years, possibly 10 with all the charges combined. The most dramatic moment came when Sean, desperate and broken, showed up at Barry's office in late January. Security called Barry before escorting Sean out, and Barry, on impulse, agreed to meet him. They sat in a conference room, glass windows showing the winter city beyond. Sean looked horrible, unshaven, thin, eyes hollow. "I'm sorry," Sean said, "for everything. The affair, the lies, all of it. You're sorry you got caught." "No, I'm sorry I did it. I was jealous of you, Barry, always have been. You were so successful, so respected. And Kelly was there, and she was unhappy, and I convinced myself I deserved to have what you had. So you took it." "Yes. And I destroyed everything. My marriage, my business, my freedom. I'm going to prison, Barry. They're talking 8 years. Barry looked at his half-brother and felt nothing. No satisfaction, no pity, just emptiness. "What do you want from me, Sean?" "Mercy. You have all that evidence. If you testified on my behalf, said I was cooperative, it might reduce my sentence. No. Barry, please, you slept with my wife. You created a child with her. You participated in destroying my family. And you're asking me for mercy? I'm begging you. Then let me be clear. You will serve every day of your sentence. You will lose everything. And when you get out, if you ever contact me or my daughters again, I will dedicate my life to making your existence even worse. Do you understand?" Sean's face crumpled. "We're brothers." "No, we're not. Not anymore." Barry stood and walked out, leaving Sean alone in the conference room. That night, Barry sat with his daughters in their living room. The house felt different now. Quieter, calmer, but also sadder. He'd protected them from the worst of the scandal, but they'd still been affected. "Dad," Sophie said, "are you okay?" "I will be, honey. We all will be. Do you still love Mom?" The question hit harder than Barry expected. Did he? Had he ever? Or had it all been an illusion, a structure he'd designed and built that looked solid, but was never truly sound? "I love who I thought she was," Barry said finally. "But that person doesn't exist. She lied to me, to you, to everyone. That's not love." "What about the baby?" Maya asked quietly. "Will we have a brother or sister?" Barry had thought about this constantly. The baby would be born in June, his biological niece or nephew, his daughter's half-sibling, product of betrayal. "That baby is innocent," Barry said. "When he or she is born, we'll figure out what role, if any, we have in their life. But right now, we focus on us." Sophie nodded, and they sat together in comfortable silence. Chapter 9. Reconstruction. March brought early spring to Connecticut. The snow melted, flowers began to push through the earth, and Barry found himself thinking about rebuilding. The divorce was finalized. Kelly had the baby, a boy, in early June, alone in a hospital with no family present except a court-appointed social worker. She named him after Sean. Barry sent flowers with no card. Sean was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. He was transferred to a facility in Pennsylvania in July. Patty sent Barry a text. "Thank you. Starting over feels possible now." Barry's daughters were healing. Sophie, about to turn 13, had started seeing a therapist who specialized in family trauma. She was doing well, channeling her emotions into art and writing. Maya, now 10, was more resilient than Barry had expected, finding comfort in routine and structure. Robert Tapia had suffered a stroke in May. Barry visited him in the hospital, and they'd had a long, overdue conversation about family, favoritism, and regret. Robert, diminished and facing mortality, apologized for the ways he'd failed Barry after his mother died. "I was so caught up in my new family. I forgot you lost the most," Robert said, his words slightly slurred from the stroke. "Your mother was everything, and I tried to replace her instead of honoring her memory with you." "I needed a father," Barry said, "not a replacement family." "I'm sorry. I see now what that cost you, what it cost all of us." They'd reconciled, tentatively. Robert's will was changed, leaving his estate equally to Barry and whatever family Barry chose to share it with, explicitly excluding Sean. In July, Barry was approached by a new client, a wealthy tech executive named Jasper Richard, who wanted a custom home that pushed boundaries. "I've read about what you went through," Jasper said during their initial meeting. "The way you handled it, with precision, with strategy. That's the kind of thinking I want in my architect. Someone who builds things that last, even under pressure." Barry designed Jasper a masterpiece, a house that incorporated innovative structural elements, sustainable design, and artistic vision. It would become his signature project, featured in Architectural Digest and winning multiple awards. Life moved forward. One Saturday in late August, Barry was working in his home office when Sophie knocked on the door. "Dad, can we talk?" "Always." She sat down, looking more mature than her 13 years. "I've been thinking about Mom." Barry set down his pen. "Okay. I know what she did was wrong, really wrong, but she's still my mom. And I think I need to forgive her. Not forget, but forgive. For me." Barry studied his daughter. This brilliant, strong young woman who understood things he was still processing. "That's very mature of you, Sophie. I want to see her, not just the supervised visits, real time. I want to know my brother." The request hurt, but Barry understood. Sophie needed this for her own healing. "Let me talk to the lawyers. We'll work something out." "Thanks, Dad." She paused. "You know, through all of this, you never once tried to turn us against her. You could have, but you didn't. She's your mother. My feelings about her don't change that. That's why I respect you, why I want to be like you." After she left, Barry sat alone, thinking about the past 9 months. He'd orchestrated Sean's destruction, dismantled Kelly's life, and protected his daughters with ruthless efficiency. He'd won every battle, but the victory felt hollow in unexpected ways. He'd proven he could be strategic, could execute a plan with precision. But he'd also learned that revenge, no matter how justified, didn't heal the wound. It just redistributed the pain. His phone rang. It was Anna Lindsay, the nurse who'd started everything with that envelope. "Mr. Tapia, I wanted to check in. I know my note back in November changed your life. I've followed the news. I hope I did the right thing." "You did," Barry said. "You gave me the truth. That's never wrong. How are your daughters?" "Strong. Healing. They're going to be okay." "And you?" Barry looked around his office. The awards on the walls, the sketches of future projects, the photos of Sophie and Maya. "I'm building something new," he said. "Something better." 3 months later, in November, exactly 1 year after Sophie had handed him that envelope, Barry stood at a construction site for a new community center he'd designed pro bono. It was his way of giving back, of creating something positive from the rubble. Sophie and Maya were with him, hard hats on, watching the foundation being poured. "This is going to help a lot of families," Sophie said. "That's the idea." "Dad," Maya said, "do you think you'll ever get married again?" The question surprised him. "Maybe someday." "Why?" "Because you deserve to be happy. Really happy." Barry pulled his daughters close. These two remarkable humans who'd survived their mother's betrayal and his calculated revenge with grace and strength. "I am happy," he said. "Right here, right now, with you two. That's enough." And as he watched the foundation take shape, solid, true, built to last, Barry realized it was true. He deconstructed his old life, removed the faulty elements, and built something stronger in its place. Not revenge, not victory, but survival, and the possibility of something better. The sun set over the construction site, casting long shadows across the concrete. Barry's phone buzzed with a message from Hugh. New client wants to meet. Big project. Interested? Barry smiled. Life moved forward. New structures waited to be designed. He typed back, "Always building. Send me the details." And with his daughters beside him and solid ground beneath his feet, Barry Tapia walked into whatever came next. Stronger, wiser, and finally, truly free.
This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.